Good afternoon, Dr. Garcia. Um, this is the third observation, which, as you can see, focuses on the STAR EOC results and action plans. Just to give you a little bit of background on the type of school or population that we serve, EJ Ballou is a special purpose campus, and 100% of our students are economically disadvantaged. 100% of our students are labeled at risk. These are the students that the comprehensive schools send over here. So our biggest issue here is student attendance. So when we're devising interventions or action plans, that is our main goal, is to increase attendance. Because obviously if the students aren't here, they can't receive instruction. So I'm going to go over some of the data that I was able to disaggregate. I did work in collaboration with the other departments. My department is social studies. I did work with the science department, the ELA department, and the math department. We worked together, came up with some ideas as to how we can keep increasing student attendance. So I'll go over some of this and some of the action plans as well. The goal or the purpose of observation 3 is to analyze STAR, algebra, English language arts, biology, and U.S. history data, and to present the action plans by department. Again, more than anything, they are interventions more than action plans, to be honest. I'll begin with the Algebra 1 STAR EOC data. Overall, the math department, 66% of the students met the standard, the passing standard for the fall testing, and for the spring testing, they were at 57%. Another thing about this campus is that this year they combined this school with another academy, which is CCTA, which is also a special purpose campus where students can be there up until the age of 26. So these two campuses, again, are very different than comprehensive high schools. It's even difficult to explain how things have to be done differently here, from discipline to how we instruct, really, because many of our students are parents, many of our students are the sole breadwinners. So what happens is that they come maybe once a week on average. Attendance has gotten better over the last couple of years. This is my first year here, but as I've looked at the rates and the TAPR reports, this year's attendance is getting better, but that is our biggest challenge. Our students are very intelligent, highly intelligent kids, but they've really struggled. Many of them have been dealt a bad hand in their lives, and they're coping as best as they can. We try to take all of that into consideration, so we adhere to their needs more than anything. So the Algebra 1 STAR EOC data, again, 57% for the spring semester and 66% for the fall semester, which may not sound as being successful, but again, the challenges that these students face are monumental, and these averages are actually really good. Now, one of the things that we do here is place the students in different tiers according to attendance. The math department has 13 retesters only left. And on the right side of the graph, which I, again, worked with the math department on this, they did help. Everybody here is very receptive to helping. You see the tiers. Tier 2 is in green, and tier 3, which are the ones with the worst attendance, are in red. So the students that they need to pass this exam, who are retesters, as you can see, are mostly tier 3 students, which means they're hardly ever here, so they don't receive instruction. The satellite campus, which is CCTA, has 2 retesters, and they're also tier 3 students. So their attendance is what is keeping them back. Some of the interventions that the math department came up with. One, team teaching, and they'll collaborate to target student strengths based on the spring administration results. They're gonna do period pullouts, which they'll pull out target students. We always have to create a target list here at this campus. Who are the students that are closer to passing? And that's not to say that we're gonna neglect those that are, that their score is far from passing, but we have to try to get these kids to graduate. The reason they're here more than anything is not behavior, but attendance and their credits. They're lacking credits. They need 27 credits to graduate. Some of these students come to us at 18 years old with 3 or 4 credits. But it's really incredible, Dr. Garcia, how these kids come here, and because it's a very small campus, they flourish. Kids who were doing horribly at the comprehensive schools and fell through the cracks, here they flourish. I was apprehensive again about coming to this campus, but the assistant superintendent, she was the one that recruited me to come over here because I work well with these types of students, and I couldn't be happier to work with them. The pullouts will target students whose schedule shows an elective or class period in which they have passed their EOCs. So for example, I may have a student that passed the the US history exam, but they haven't passed the biology exam. So then we can send them to their biology teacher and say, go work with your biology teacher so you can be ready for the exam. And teachers are receptive to that as well. We simply have to, again, adhere to what the students need. And because sometimes they're only here one day out of the week, maybe once every 2 weeks, then we must target what they need, that day. They also use colored calculators and a program called T-Inspire. Students will use the colored calculators on a daily basis. These colored calculators are especially useful when the students are moving into the different categories as far as the standards. Categories 2, 3, and 4, because students are better able to see the transformations between 2 linear and quadratic functions. And although I did work with the math department on this, I'm not a math person. So they're talking about linear and quadratic equations, functions. I'm not really familiar with that. The TI-Inspire calculator will be used for solving systems of equations. We have 2 social workers. The school operates under a grant, which is the TTIPS grant, which is the Texas, it's an initiative for supporting schools. I can't recall right now, Dr. Garcia, and I should, but it just escapes me at the moment. But the 2 liaisons, we can call them liaisons, but they are social workers. They're the ones that also go out and make home visits. We submit our lists to them, and they really help us out a lot. They're an incredible asset to this campus, and we just got them maybe a few months after the school year began. through that grant. So one of the things that the math department will do is constantly get together with the liaisons for assistance in bringing in the students. And finally, the parental contact will be done on a daily basis. We all do that. Some of the activities that the math department is going to engage students in, students will complete the matching activities for each of the clusters. Students will match vocabulary words with definitions for each of the categories. Students will be administered weekly mini assessments and daily entry and exit tickets. Another one of the things that is very important here, and really in all education for all students, is the use of formative assessments. We must know where they're at continuously and constantly. And I think most of us are pretty good at doing that. The daily use of colored calculators and the TI Inspire on the entry ticket, the exit ticket, the mini assessments, matching activities, and daily assignments. So those are the interventions, which are going to be very similar to the interventions for all the other departments. These are for the math department, and they went further and explained each one a little bit more in detail. The team teaching, again, teachers will collaborate to target students' strengths based on May's administration results. Intervention number 2, which are the period pullouts. We will pull out those target students whose schedule shows an elective or a class period in which they have passed their EOCs. This is the form that we use. So once we have our student target list, what we do is place them on the attendance tier and we list their schedule. So we'll know Juan Garcia, second period has speech. But he's not passed the U.S. history. I'm going to ask his speech teacher if I can pull him out and tutor him. Another thing that I forgot to mention is that many of our students don't have, they don't stay the entire day. And we don't hold them back from leaving, again, because many of them are the sole breadwinners and they have families. So holding them here really is not conducive to helping them really in their personal lives. So this is the template that we use to know where the students are throughout the day, and so we can be able to pull them out. On the calculators, the math, just like all the other exams, they're by category. For algebra, biology, and English, the categories, you can target students by categories, and that's what the math department does. And they just explain what the categories entail and where students are lacking in the categories. For example, reporting category 2, the students showed low performance in describing and graphing linear functions, equations, and inequalities. And that's the reason for using these type of calculators, which are permitted in the exam. Reporting category 3 was another one where they showed low performance, which was writing and solving linear equations and inequalities. And the students did relatively well on the other reporting categories. This does not work. Targeting students based on how they did on reporting categories for U.S. history, which is my department, really doesn't work because we have 106 TEKS standards and they all spiral into each other. So we can't just target, for example, reporting category 1, students will know important events in U.S. history. Well, that encompasses the entire exam as well. So this is not the way the U.S. History Department divides it or targets students. We target more based on TEKS. What TEKS are they struggling with? And also the processing skills. And as I mentioned earlier, another intervention is working, collaborating with the collaborating with the social workers. This is one of the contact logs that we use. The different departments generate their own contact log. The point is simply that we keep a file, and we also communicate among departments so that way we don't overlap those home visits. So social studies department might target 20 students. We send that out to the other departments, so letting them know these are the students that we're gonna make home visits on. You can focus on others. So again, phone calls will be made, and really, Dr. Garcia, this applies to every department. We collaborate. It's a very small school. We're staff, we're teachers. I think we're 18 teachers. Our student count, I think, is 200, a little under 300. But unfortunately, on some days, we might get a total of 40 students. Really a good day, maybe 50 students might be here. So it's very, very, very crucial. It's very important that we increase parental engagement. It really is a difficult task. Like I said, many of these kids are on their own, but that doesn't mean that we stop trying. So home visits, if the student has been absent more than 2 days in a week, and we use the tracking sheet or the attendance sheet to keep us on track. And this is the attendance sheet that we use. They're more than their phone numbers, really. Their address is very important. So often that's their parents' address, and it's one of the things that happens frequently is that we go to these addresses and they tell us, no, he's not living here. Sometimes we ask the parents or guardians, do you know where they live? Often they say that they don't, and and it's the sad reality. But we try to, again, as working with the social workers, they're the ones that are able to investigate a little bit more. Sometimes we have to contact the students' probation officers, and they'll give us the correct addresses, or we work with the probation officers so they can really, force the students to attend school. So what we do is the students' names, their addresses, their phone numbers, and when we make contact with the students, any comments that we want to add. And we also, when we have the professional learning communities, we also share this information to, again, to know which students will be coming in or what students we haven't made contact with. That was for the math department, which is Algebra 1. It's a ninth grade exam. Also, the reason that I chose this as the observation is because for us, accountability, as it is for every campus, right? But for us especially, it is very difficult to meet accountability. And in this era of high stakes testing, it's a lot of pressure on administration, on the teachers, and we really work very hard. As a matter of fact, our school year runs through June 28th, which is different than the other schools are already out. Now for English, the English department, they have ELA 1 and ELA 2. English 1 is the freshman exam, and ELA 2 is the sophomore exam. But again, these students, some of them are, they 18, 19 years old, and they're lacking all the exams. So again, it's difficult. So for the fall, in ELA, when I mentioned CCTA, Dr. Garcia, and Baloo, Baloo is the campus that I'm at right now. CCTA joined, CCTA joined with Baloo. That was done by the district because CCTA has those older kids and they were hurting. That school was not meeting accountability. So what Dr. King did was combine both schools so that the average student performance will raise the scores or the percentages and meet accountability. I apologize for what's popping up, Dr. Garcia, but these are, I think the computer has a virus or something. I'm not sure what. So CCTA, they had in the fall, which was December testing, they had 24% pass, which was 4 out of 17, which really was a very good score or a very good percentage. The Baloo, I think this is the only content area where generally CCTA outperforms this campus. CCTA was at 24%, Baloo was at 11%, the total was at 14. So here at Baloo, 8 out of 72 passed and 4 out of 17 passed. Now, one thing that I noticed in doing this is that for their essay, which for many students is the most difficult part of the English language arts exams, is the essay. Their average score in December for the essay was between 0 and 6. That was their score. They need an 8 to pass. Now, so in December, their intervention plan or their action plan for ELA was to focus on the persuasive essay, literacy and reading strategies, phone calls, home visits, rotations. What the ELA department does is that their rooms are next to each other. It's 4 teachers. So what they do, one teacher focuses on revising and editing, which is one of the not the standards, but the reporting categories. Another one focuses on the writing part, and so on and so forth. So they work really well to target the different reporting categories. And they also team teach. Through the grant, we also are able to get tutors to come in and assist. Now, for the spring 2018, which we just recently got the results, 11 out of 96 passed. Now, that's still at an 11%, which we would have liked to do better. But what stands out here is the average in the essay. So while in December the kids were at a 0 to 6 average on the essay, in May they were at 6, and many of these students are the same ones, were 6 to 8, the score on the essay. So what that shows us is that the students between then and May are writing. Something that had, as I was discussing it with the principal, something that had happened in previous years is that the students were not writing. They would simply turn in their exam without doing the essay at all. But we got a new ELA team, we've got a new social studies team. This year a lot of new teachers came in and we have seen improvement. So really this is the 6 to 8 average is really motivating for us, because now we know that they can write, and again, like I said, we have so many smart kids, Dr. Garcia. It's unfortunate that they have to deal with the things that they deal with, but they can write, and we try to motivate them and create a positive school culture, positive school climate, so that we get along well with these kids, and just try to really instill that confidence in them so they are able to perform and want to perform well. The action plan, one of the things now that the students, now we realize, okay, so now they know how to write, but now in the ELA exam, what they do, one of the things that they do is that they pair two reading selections, and they have to compare, contrast the questions, reflect both selections. So the students get a little mixed up with that. So that's what we are going to focus on for the month of June, because they test, and I completely forgot to mention that, Dr. Garcia, but the students test at the end of June. And that's why we're still here. Reading comprehension is what they're struggling with. Again, like the other department, phone calls, home visits. These are some resources that they're adopting now, the Mind Play and the Criterion, that should help generate higher scores for the students as far as the reading portion of the exam. Now the English 2 scores, CCTA, which is our sister campus, was at 0%, 0 out of 15 passed. And for us, the students that are here are younger than the students at CCTA. So it's really heartbreaking, because these students have been, like I said, some of them are 26 years old, and they've been trying to pass these exams for years, So when you see 0 out of 15, it's a little demoralizing. But again, we don't give up, and we also collaborate with the teachers from the other campus. They're maybe about a mile away, but whenever we can during our conference period or whatever it is, we try to work with them and see what maybe resources we can share with them, or they can share with us, strategies, whatever it is. Here at Ballou, the percentage was 7.8, 6 out of 8%. So 6 out of 76 passed the English 2 exam, which is a persuasive essay, as opposed to the English 1, which is a expository, I'm sorry. So their average for, this is the fall, their average for the fall is, they were at 6%, the 6 on the essay, that was their average score. So what is the action plan? They're gonna focus on the persuasive essay, literacy, reading strategies, again, phone calls, home visits, the rotations, the team teaching. For the spring exam, we were at 7%, 8 out of 109 passed. But again, their essay score was higher. The average for their essay was higher than for the fall. Again, they're going to do the same thing, which is the paired selections, focus on reading comprehension, phone calls, home visits, and Mind Play, and the Criterion resources. One of the things that across the content areas, we have to help each other, especially in a small campus like this. We have to. So one of the things that the English teachers felt was important was for the rest of us to understand how they score the essays. And I agreed with them. I said, I think it's something that the entire staff should know. So there are 2 raters for the essays. The essay can be from 0 to 16 points. They just need 8 points to pass. So it's rater 1, there are 2 raters. The whatever score the first rater gives, they add that to the second rater score, and then they multiply it by 2. And again, they can get up to 16 points on the essay. They need 8 points to pass. So, for example, if one of the raters gives the student essay a 2, and the other rater rates him or her as a 1, that's a 3. They multiply that score by 2, it's a 6, so they don't pass. They would need a minimum, obviously, of 2 for both raters to rate the essay at a 2. And this is just reiterating what I just said. Again, just focusing on the essay, ELA 1, 24% passed the essay, not the entire exam, but the essay. Spring 2018, 37% passed the essay. Again, it's encouraging for us to know that these students are trying and they are writing. And we all help. They come into my classroom and I'll give them a topic so they can write an entry ticket. So all of us collaborate to ensure that these students are improving. ELA 2, 43% passed the essay, and in spring 2018, 50% passed the essay. So again, what does that tell us? Is that these kids can write. The target list, again, every department has a student target list, and by scores. So the highlighted students are the closest to passing the exam. The passing score is a 3750, and again, they need an 8 to pass the essay part. So if you look at this student, for example, Gabriel Amaya, 3689, very close, and his essay was a 6. So with Gabriel, we will work with him on making sure that he meets an 8 on the essay part. Tanya, same score as Gabriel, 3689, but she did get an 8 on the essay. So we might focus on Tanya, we might focus on the reading part of the exam. All this information, again, is crucial to really be intentional with these students. And again, we across the content areas, we share this information so we know where these students are, not only in our content area, but in the others as well. And these that are not highlighted, again, it's not that they're still part of the target list, but these are a lot closer. Yes, ma'am. The ELA 2 target list, also 3750 to pass, also an 8 to pass.